Hello and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mark Anthony Brennan as we begin a new document series called Where is My Homecoming? A document series that takes a look at the much needed curriculum for combat veterans. As you may or may not know, a majority of combat veterans feel that they did not receive a proper homecoming ritual when they returned home from combat. So throughout this series, we will discuss the curriculum that is needed for those veterans as they transition to higher education. The primary vehicle that we will be using throughout the curriculum will be mythology. And the father of the mythology vehicle that we'll be using is Joseph Campbell. As Joseph Campbell said, dream is the personalized myth. Both myth and dream are symbolic in the same general way of the dynamics of the psyche, but in the dream the forms are quirked by the peculiar troubles of the dreamer, whereas in myth the problems and solutions shown are directly valid for all mankind. As Joseph Campbell is telling us here, myth holds the solutions to everything. It's just our responsibility to find the metaphors to unlock what our ancestors gave to us. As a combat veteran myself, I graduated from infantry training school in 2001. It wasn't until 2003 that I deployed to Tikrit, Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. In 2015, I didn't begin my education journey where I realized something was missing, and that was a support group to help me along my way in the education system. However, I did complete my associate's degree from Valencia College in Orlando, Florida, and this is where I learned and began my hunger for passion within mythology. From there, I moved on to the University of Texas at San Antonio, where I received my Bachelor's of Art in Classical Studies and Humanities, and received a minor in Religious Studies. Currently, I'm working on my Master's of Arts in Curriculum and Instruction, where I'm trying to integrate what I'm learning now about curriculum and instruction, and trying to build the curriculum that is needed for veterans and mythology, creating a veteran studies program within higher education. As the great philosopher Plato once said, yes, surely they must be gentle to their own people and harsh to the enemy. If they aren't, they won't wait around for the others to destroy the city, but they'll do it themselves first. Plato, being a combat veteran himself of the Peloponnesian War, he knew the dangers, the sacrifice, and the risks that it was and became of being a combat veteran. It wasn't until his colleague came along, Aristotle, that coined the term catharsis that you and I know of today. Catharsis in Greek means purification. While purging something means getting rid of it, purifying means getting rid of the worse or baser part of it. The word catharsis falls outside of the poetics because of the word wonder. Ramauston first appears in chapter 9, where Aristotle argues that pity and fear arise most of all where wonder does. In chapter 24 and chapter 25, Aristotle singles out wonder as the aim of the poetic art itself. Aim of tragedy in particular merges. Ask yourself, how do you feel at the end of a tragedy? You have now just witnessed horrible things and felt painful things, but the mark of tragedy is that it brings you out to this other side, having had to have used your wonder. Aristotle's use of the word catharsis is not technical reference to purgation or purification, but a beautiful metaphor for the peculiar tragic pleasure, the feeling of being washed or cleansed. But yet this idea of this nostoi in Greek, a homecoming, these tragedies were portrayed at the very first theater, at the theater of Dionysus, by our ancient Greek ancestors, almost 2,500 years ago. And they were staged at the theater of Dionysus. And they explored this concept of nostoi. And they explored topics from the conflicts and wars and the effects that it had on women and children, the household and the community at large. And it provided the community a collective catharsis, a cultural therapy in itself. And they did this at the theater of Dionysus, in the theater itself. And this provided them a collective cultural catharsis. This in itself was an extra-textual event. Spectators were able to view both words and actions in motion. Philip Auslander has coined this term liveness to describe a performance in its original social, political, and environmental context. Imagine this beautiful view, being able to sit around almost 8,000 of your fellow citizens. This developed into a mass processional, sacrificial, and performative celebration of Athens at the center of its cultural life. The effect the city Dionysia offered Attic citizens, a ritual homecoming. Our ancient Greek ancestors provided us the tragic pity, a way for our soldiers, our combat veterans today, to integrate curriculum based on the effects of coming home and today. Aeschylus provides us different works through the Persians, through suppliants, through his works in Agamemnon, in Seven Against Thebes, in Sophocles' works, in Ajax, in Philoctetes, and Antigone, in Euripides' works, Heracles, Trojan women, and Hecuba. According to Peggy Phelham, performance cannot be saved, recorded, documented, or otherwise participated in the circulation or representations of representations. Once it does so, it becomes something other than performance. This is important to our curriculum. This means that our combat veterans must be participating with the curriculum in itself, or it won't have any value to them. In Book 8 of the Odyssey, our hero, whose identity has not yet been revealed to his Phaeacian host, urges Demodocus to tell the story of the wooden horse that has sacked Troy. Rather than responding with pride at his own cunning that craft the famous deceit, Odysseus weeps. Right here, Homer acknowledges the psychological aspects of warfare head on. War is hell. So why do we not have a homecoming today? Have our ethics changed towards our members of the military? Is the funding not available? According to the 2019 defense budget, the funding is certainly available, as over $716 billion has been allocated. So it certainly can't be our ethics. If we take a look at our past ethics, the soldiers that fought in World War II, 15 to 20% of those that were deployed in World War II fired their weapons. That number nearly doubled in the Korean War to 50%. And in Vietnam, again, that number went up to 90%. So we know our training is working. Not only in basic training, but through social and cultural training. We know our training is working. In basic training, and if we take a look at our national statistics, we know that 1.6 million American men and women have served in Iraq and Afghanistan during Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. There are currently 25 million veterans living in the U.S. who have served in the armed forces. 300,000 Iraq and Afghanistan veterans suffer from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. 320,000 veterans may have experienced some form of traumatic brain injury. Locally here in the San Antonio area, 10% of our population identifies as a veteran. Over 100,000 people in the San Antonio region. In the state of Texas alone, there are over 1 million residents that are veterans. Additionally, we have to incorporate the arts with the curriculum that is provided. We know that arts improve academic performance. They increase higher GPAs. They lower dropout rates within our schools. They increase higher test scores. They foster critical thinking skills. Creativity is one of the top 5 sought after skills by employers today. Additionally, a college arts degree is one of the top 3 sought after by employers. Arts improves healthcare. We know this. Studies show that 1/3 of healthcare providers are using arts programs in their facilities. And of those, 78% of them are reporting the positive healing benefits of such. So if we know this, why are we not doing more? With that, we have created a program called Roadrunner Restores. Art washes from the soul the dust of everyday life. Pablo Picasso. Roadrunner Restores consists of 4 phases. Each phase is independent of itself and will require individual funding. The first phase of the program, which is intended to begin in spring of 2020, is a course curriculum program that will be open to veterans, ROTC cadets, and dependents of military veterans. The course is organized to train students as discussion leaders in the context of multicultural classical texts, how to connect these texts to current veteran experiences, and in these skills, learn to lead discussion groups. The core curriculum requirements will be earned in language, humanities, and culture. The second phase of Roadrunner Restores is a theater group. The theater program will use ancient literature to build dialogue regarding the veteran's experience, war, and service. The performance-based program creates and shares art that includes modern stories fastened by the shared experience of classical works. The program will encompass a variety of programs. The performance program is a direct outgrowth of these programs and includes stories contributed by and will be performed by members of our program and community involvement. These performances focus on critical social issues, including war, conflict, camaraderie, and homecoming. The third phase of Roadrunner Restores includes a group therapy through classical reading program. This program is broken up into a 12-week session program. The primary program will consist of an ongoing modern art group project that the veterans will maintain a journal over. The veteran will be given the option to create a ongoing art therapy program. The project can consist of a music piece, a drawing piece, a performance piece, poetry, or literature. During the 12-week sessions, the veterans will read through an open dialogue. These will consist through a round-robin format. There will be open discussions about the veteran's experience in relations to the current text that we are reading. During these sessions, there will be 2 therapists on hand to deal with any issues that may occur. Additionally, there will be a cultural or reading specialist on hand to help with any translation issues about the classical text that we are reading. There will be field trips to local museums that will also integrate how the ancients had constant visual reminders of these stories and how they provided a catharsis. The 12-week sessions will be broken into 4 thematic units that will consist of 3-week sessions. Those 3-week sessions will be 2-hour sessions each week. Session 1 will consist of the coming home, and the text that will be used is Homer's Odyssey. Session 2 is the idea of the hero. Text used, Euripides' Medea. Session 3, the ethics at war. Text used, Sophocles' Philoctetes. Session 4, the dilemmas of war. Text used, Sophocles' Ajax. The final phase of Roadrunner Restores, Phase 4, is the ultimate cathartic trip for veterans, as Sophocles himself had been a general, because all Athenian men were expected to serve in the military. As this research project will focus on veterans' trips abroad, the project will be from an insider's perspective to achieving the maximum level of catharsis once someone has gone through all phases of the program. I would refer you, if you have any additional questions about this research project, to markanthony.brennan, BRENNAN, at my.utsa.edu. Thank you so much for taking your time, for listening. Please look forward to additional research, videos, and questions about this topic. And where is my homecoming?